Okay, welcome back. It is Thursday, February 3rd. And Alan is with us again. Hello, Alan. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Pretty good, pretty good. Thank you. All right. Let's see. You know what? Let me. My computer is about to die right now, so let me get the plug. All right. Okay. So hope all is well with you and everyone else. Just a heads up, the lecture from Tuesday was posted yesterday. So it's available in the this week's module. So you can view it there. Hopefully you probably already viewed it. I don't know if you're getting notifications of the whenever I post a video.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I have sometimes, but not lately.
Usually through my announcements. Is that right?
I usually look in the inbox and then I look at the announcements page and sometimes don't show up there either.
Okay, interesting. All right, so I'll continue to post regular announcements, mainly because they're supposed to, when you post the video, your students are supposed to get a reminder, but I guess that's not working. I did get the date squared away for the remainder of the semester for the videos, so for lecture and lecture reminders. So that's set. That is set for every Tuesdays and Thursdays, 2 o'clock. So.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so let's see. I kind of want to just start with like first diving into this week's assignments a little bit more, especially in regards to the verbiage in some of these journals, just to clarify. Then I want to go into MLA formatting, show you some tools in which you can use to with the formatting of your paper in MLA format. And then we'll talk a little bit about the CAR essay, mainly the larger issues in the essay and sort of how the essay is sort of organized, just to help readers with the essay itself. And then, we'll talk a little bit about personal reaction. I don't know, Alan, if you got a chance to read it yet.
I've read half of it so far.
You read half? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I printed it out. Took me a couple tries to get it printed where the words were all there, but I got it printed out finally.
Oh, good. All right.
And I've read the first half of it.
Okay, so we could at least get started on the beginning of the conversation for the essay. So here we are in week 4. And so just let me backtrack real quick with this Google making us stupid. So this is a discussion thread that in response to the CAR essay. So we've got a series of questions, and I just kind of want to go over these questions real quick and just to provide any clarity, or Alan, if you have any questions about these questions, just let me know. So the first question is, according to Carr, so we're talking about what Carr thinks, according to him, right? What is the internet doing to our brains? So we want to know, what is his argument in the essay, and how is that happening? For that statement, you don't necessarily have to write like every aspect, because he goes into quite a bit of detail, uses many anecdotes, which are personal, which are personal responses. He uses other bloggers as and other individuals throughout history, like Nietzsche, who have used technology and have adapted to technology, or somehow their work was changed by technology. So I don't necessarily need all of the details behind everything that they've done, just maybe a brief little synopsis. That number one shouldn't be no more than a couple of sentences. Number two, what are some of the other technologies and inventions Carr used to describe how the internet has revolutionized our lives? So what are some of the inventions Carr uses? So that's pretty self-explanatory. And how the internet has revolutionized. So it's written in the past tense, but should be pretty clear. Any questions on one or two?
No, so I don't have to write a paragraph about each, but really just a couple
No.
sentences.
Couple sentences would suffice.
Okay.
Is Carr's argument encapsulated in an explicit thesis statement? Discuss why or why not you believe Carr made the decision to use an explicit or implicit thesis statement in the article. So essentially, I'll give you a hint. The title lends itself a lot to what the thesis is. It's a question, but at the same time, is it a thesis statement? And I ask you to refer to page 84 in your textbook, and I have the textbook here. I forgot what chapter 84 was on. Chapter 7, in writing processes. Oh, that was a chapter. So page 84 speaks to the, what a thesis statement is. So your textbook does a pretty good job of explaining the thesis. So it says here at this point, you should be ready to write out a thesis, and then it gives you a definition here, a sentence that identifies your topic and the point you want to make about it. So that's essentially what we're looking for, is this one sentence, or sometimes it's a combination of sentences that affirms your stand on the issue, that confirms your stand on the issue. Sometimes it's a couple of sentences. Sometimes it's implied. But he's very straightforward. Carr is very straightforward in this essay, so it should be rather identifiable what that thesis is. I'm going to say this: your title has a lot to do with what the thesis is.
Yeah.
Let's see. And going back here, all right. Carr combines personal experience, number 4, and research from scholarly sources as evidence to support his claim. So why does he do that? So why does he combine the personal with scholarly sources as evidence? So why does he do both? What does that do for his argument? Does that make his argument stronger? Does it make his argument weaker if he just includes if he includes just the personal? Does that make his argument weaker? Maybe you want to know more about his personal. Um, and just tell me why. So,
Okay.
and number 5, do not forget to reply to one classmate. There's always a couple of you who forget, and then I have to shave points off because of that. So don't. So try not to do that because those missed points add up toward the end. So, all right. So, any questions on any of this?
Not that I can think of. Like I said, I was reading through this. I haven't done any of the homework this week yet,
Okay.
so I've been gonna do it. I was trying to do it yesterday, but my eyes were hurting really bad, so I
Yeah,
couldn't
and I
hardly
told.
read or anything. So I figured I'd work on it over the weekend and over
Yeah,
the next couple days. So
I totally get that. It's hard being virtual and always being on the computer, and that can definitely weigh heavy on your eyes. I totally get that. So try to add as much flexibility as I can, which is why I always have assignments due at the same time. That's a
uh,
large part of it. So we have students that have already written some of their responses and whatnot. So just a reminder, you have until Sunday night, midnight, to get all of this. Okay, so our next assignment is the journal from chapter 9, page 133. So we're going to go there. And this is the chapter that we skipped over. That doesn't mean we're not going to cover arguing, but we'll come back to that. But this essay, our first essay, is very analysis heavy. So we're not formulating an argument per se about the essay. The only argument we're really making is, what is this essay about? And that's really part of the analysis. So page 133, let me just find that. This is 133. And here's the journal right here. Okay. So this is a reflection, and I like these journals in this textbook because they're very straightforward and they're very meaningful and they make you want to write. But sometimes the language can be a little bit not really doable in some instances. Like, I don't know if this would be doable, especially being that this is an online class, and at City College there's not really a whole lot of activity going on. But let's just go right to this journal here. Think of an issue that's being discussed and debated now on campus, in a local community, in the world. That should be pretty easy to find, right? I mean, just go to Google or just go to CNN.com or wherever you get your news from, or just go to social media and there's always somebody posting a link to an article, or there's always articles that are out there. My advice is to find what you like in terms of who writes news articles. I like to follow certain journalists as opposed to certain news outlets. There's been a lot of issues with news outlets as far as bias goes, confirmation bias, many different types of biases. But if you can find a good journalist that can talk about issues, I think podcasts are a great way to find out what's being debated in the world and whatnot. But at the same time, you still have to vet those. You have to vet all of that, and we'll talk about vetting because that's going to be very important going forward. But how do you find out what's the best kind of source? What sources are good? What's a good podcast? There's plenty of crap out there. I know that's a pretty harsh way of putting it, but it's true. So you just want to find something that that interests you, that has a unique, fresh perspective on things, and you don't feel like you're in an echo chamber. I think that's very important. think it's very important that whoever you're listening to can talk about issues on either side. You know. So, but it's very hard. I think it's harder today than it's ever been to find good news. Let's see. Reflect. Think of an issue that's being discussed and debated now on campus. This used to be a much easier part to answer because we were all on campus and there were like plenty of clubs and there was the Rampage student newspaper, you know, and that might be a good way to look at what's happening on campus. Fresno City College publishes a newspaper called the Rampage, the Associated Student Government. They do that. I don't know if they're still publishing it or if it's online, but just Google Rampage and Fresno City College Rampage, or just from the FCC page, just Google Rampage, and it should come up. I don't know if they're working now or what their deal is, but it's a good way to get in touch with the campus. Let's see. Local issues. What are the local issues, the community issues? What are the world issues? Of course, national issues can tie into all of that, you know. So, you know, obviously what comes to mind is what, COVID, right? That's always big, right? And that's one that's affecting everyone, right? That's affecting people internationally. That's affecting us locally. That's affecting everything, right? Everybody. The economy, sports, probably even food, I'm sure, you know, just medicine, it's affecting everything, right? So what are the people saying, and you know, what are some of the what are the people, what are some of some of the key arguments that people are saying? What do the various sides think and why? And that's really important. It's really important in terms of vetting a source, is knowing what the sides are, what are the various sides of the issue. So for instance, with the COVID, going back to the COVID example, you know, and as far as like going with the vaccinations, you know, there are those who are you know, pro vaccinations, and there are those who are anti-vaccination, and so you have both of those sides, you know, and you know, you have there's not a whole lot of wiggle room in all of that, in that particular issue. But I will say this: there are quite a number of people on both sides that, you know, we often think of this issue as a conservative or a liberal issue, but there are liberals that are anti-vax, and there are conservatives that are pro-vax. You just got to know where to look to find those, to find people that are defying what the sides are. You know, it's much more complicated than sometimes it's presented on the news. So just consider that. You know.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
We did this exercise in week 2 as a discussion. This particular one on page 133.
Did we?
Yeah, we did. So I was wondering if I could copy paste my answer from over there to this.
Hey man, you know what? Since I've already published this, you know, don't tell me anything. So I'll leave that up to you. Up to you. I don't know how I missed that.
Yeah,
but
we
it's a
did it
very
in 205 as a discussion board for everybody to respond to and everything.
This was the icebreaker. That's right. So more the icebreaker. Okay. No. Hey man. Hey, you completed the assignment. The assignment's already posted. That what can I do? You know what I mean? hopefully, we thought about that issue, and you know, maybe your mind has changed since then. So it is what it is, as they say. I'm not going to say anything, Alan.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. Page 139 of your textbook, answer the following questions from analyzing a written text in correspondence to the our essay. So yes, so these are wonderful questions here that I really like. Let me find that real quick. In 139. How do I get there? Okay. Here we are.
Analyze a written text or analyzing a visual text, those ones.
Yeah, so for this assignment, I want you to focus on the written text questions.
Okay.
And these questions are actually going to help you with the rhetorical analysis essay going forward. This essentially this answering these questions will do a lot in terms of in terms of your essay. So in a way, if you answer all these questions, it's they end up becoming kind of like a mini outline for the essay. So you start off with the first question. What is your overall impression of the text? And what specific elements lead you to that impression? So, yeah, what's your overall impression of the essay itself, the car essay? And what in that essay leads you to that impression? So, you've read the first 6 pages. What's your initial thought about the car essay so far?
Well, so far I tend to agree with him. My attention span for focusing on anything is shot. You know, if I sit down and try to read, I'm looking around, I'm picking up my phone, I'm you know, I'm overly distracted. If I read more than a couple pages, I'm thinking, am I done yet? Can I move on to the next thing? So I completely agree with his analysis so far.
Yeah, so for that question, you would probably answer as, I mean, something to that effect. You know, I completely, totally relate to Carr's essay, and the specific elements part would be you know, response to, well, what is it in that essay that gets me to agree, right? So it's more than just, is Google making us stupid, but it's also the why. So it's kind of like, it's kind of a why question in regards to that. So, but you know, this is a largely personal opinion answer, but at the same time, you're incorporating specifics from the essay. So what claim is a text making, and how do you know? So, you know, pretty much that's their thesis. That's their argument. What is the thesis saying? Who knows? Maybe in the first 6 pages, Carr hasn't made us claim yet. It might be later down the road. You know, he has his problem. He presents us with the problem, which is Google making stupid? But by the end of the essay, you know, is that, you know, what is he claiming? You know, it's like, that's the journey. So to answer that, you would have to get to the end of the essay to decide for yourself. Okay, so, you know, what is he actually claiming? At the beginning, he's asking this question: is Google making us stupid? At the end, is he answering? So, does he answer it, or does he give us more of a gray area of his analysis at the end of the essay, or does he go against that question and say, you know, no, it's not, you know? So it's either one of those 3. So at the end, you know, what does that claim? Reasons and evidence does the writer provide to support the claim? How convincing do you find them? So this is where you get into the bread and butter of the essay. So, the essay is essentially set up, to have the essay right here in front of me, but he starts with a hook, which is the hook about the film 2001: A Space Odyssey, which is a film about the space mission aboard this craft, and the commander of the navigator of the space uh, ship is a computer called HAL. It's kind of like Alexa. HAL is the Alexa of that computer. Um, and so there comes a point where Alexa gives or I keep saying Alexa, HAL gives advice to the astronauts on what course to take. So there's a part where the computer suggests that the people who are operating the craft are the problem. So that's the issue, and they have to fix that. So and when the astronauts figure that out, it's almost too late. So it's a real great movie. I highly recommend. I think anyone watch it if you have 3 hours. So it's a long one. It's a long movie. Watch it. So he starts off with that because obviously it's related, right? I mean, what happens if we rely on too much technology? Are we going to get? Is it going to work against us? In other words, so that's where he starts, and then he goes into his own personal experience about computers. I mean, about the web. About the web. So like next couple of pages, there's a lot of introspection where you get to learn a lot about his feelings, his thoughts about the internet, about Google, his own personal. So a lot of the personal is very much up front. And then he starts to bring in various sources that are people connected to technology. And one of the first quotes you'll see in the essay is a quote by Clive Thompson. Clive Thompson, he has I don't know if he's still part of this, but there's a science fiction magazine or science, it's more of a science technology magazine called Wired. And he goes on to say, the perfect recall of silicon memory can be an enormous boon to thinking. So that's a contemporary of him who's basically saying, this is a very powerful technology, this internet, and it's going to do good things. But then he Carr counters that with, but that boon comes at a price. And he brings in another media theorist. As the media theorist Marshall McLuhan pointed out in the 1960s, so he goes way back, media are not just passive channels of information. They supply the stuff of thought, but they also shape the process of thought. And what the net seems to be doing is chipping away my capacity for concentration and contemplation. So he's kind of looking at the past and the present on what people are sort of drawing their conclusions about technology. And he's kind of like putting himself in there in those two different sources. And he's like kind of like thinking to himself, well, back then, what's his name? Marshall McLuhan kind of presented us with a warning in terms of too much technology. But then, he's also conflicted with his colleagues that those are the contemporaries. Those are the people that are his sort of peers at the moment. That they like this boom of technology, and he's questioning it. He's questioning whether it's a good thing or not. That's kind of where he's at. So he has his he has people who that are his naysayers, his opponents that are going to disagree. Maybe they agree to an extent, but they don't largely agree with this doomsday perspective that he brings. So that's largely how the essay is structured. With he brings in different scholars, and then different scholars that kind of counter. You'll see certain scholars that have, and bloggers, people with their own little blogging websites that are amateurs, and some of them are credible, but they have blogs. And this was also the time when blogging was very popular back in 2008. And so a lot of controversial ideas were coming out at that time. So the internet was a much more free space. Now it's like a much more policed internet, especially with YouTube, Twitter banning President Trump a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah.
And and then Joe Rogan from Spotify. A lot of people are upset with the fact that Spotify is not banning Joe Rogan for being anti-vax. So you're not familiar with that issue. That's a very interesting issue. It's really interesting to look at both sides of that debate. So, but back then in 2009, there wasn't a lot of. I guess you could say the powers that be weren't really paying attention to the internet as much as they are. I'll just put it that way. And that's kind of like what Carr is also implying. Not just he's leaning more, he's speaking more towards what the technology does to our minds. And maybe that, that how we're reacting to, how certain individuals are reacting to content that they disagree with, it's heightened more. Maybe he's speaking to that. I don't know. But what he does throughout the essay is he brings in the pros and the cons of different sources throughout the essay of his argument. So that's essentially how the essay is organized. And then at the very end, he comes back to, but I don't want to, no spoiler, but he does come back to 2001: A Space Odyssey, the film. So he does come back to that. So that's essentially like how the essay is organized. He brings in older technological experts. He brings up Nietzsche, Friedrich Nietzsche, was this philosopher, and I think he was a poet. And he came around. I think when the typewriter was kind of new, and that kind of shaped his thought process. So anyways, so that's that. I'm kind of going off all over the place. Oh yeah. So we're going back to those questions there. 139. Yeah, so that was what all the reasons and the evidence. What has motivated the writer to take on this topic? What is the larger conversation this text is responding to? My recommendation is for that question is to look at his bio. Google him. Find out about Nicholas Carr. Find out what those motivations are. Did he just write this essay out of like, well, one day he was thinking, oh, I think it'd be interesting to write about the internet, or is this an issue that's been ongoing with him all these years? This essay was written some time ago. I think it was written in like 2008, around there.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So, what does he say now? That would be interesting. But what has motivated? What was he thinking before that? So, what's the larger conversation this text is responding to? So, if you Google this essay, you will find lots of information on people responding to Carr, which is really interesting. Um, there was uh, if you go to his Wikipedia page, you can find a lot of those sources that are already there in the footnotes. Um, and here comes my cat. And so there's one source at the beginning of that Wikipedia page where it alludes to a blog through Encyclopedia Britannica, which is the old encyclopedias. I guess they're mainly online now, but I guess they had a blog thing going, and I actually found the blog, but they closed the comments, and I was really interested in reading the comments,
Hmm.
but they're not there anymore. Let's see. I'm gonna take off my glasses for this right here. I'll forget about it. I need to get new glasses.
Yeah, my eye doctor wrote me a prescription, but I can't afford them. So
Mhm.
he said, well, if you can't afford glasses, go and get a pair of reading glasses. They will help with your computer usage and your readings. So I got a pair, but I think they're starting to get too dull.
Yeah. These glasses right here. I got them through Stanton Optical, and I don't recommend going there. Uh, so I got the what do you call it, the transitions, and the film is wearing off. So now I see just smudges at times. That's why I take my glasses off sometimes when I read. And plus I have the bifocal. So God forbid when I'm trying to read and all I see is smudges, I have to take off the glasses.
Yeah.
So all you youngins out there, that's what you have to look forward to. Your eyesight will change. That's a guarantee. Unless you get the LASIK. But here's the thing though, that's the LASIK is really cool, but what is it gonna do? What's gonna happen long term? Isn't that kind of a newer technology?
Yeah, it's a newer technology. I think it's been out about 6, 7 years, which isn't
Yeah.
really long enough to know what's going to happen 15, 20 years in the future
Yeah.
about it,
But the technology is 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 rapid. So 6 to 7 years, like that time frame, isn't like really 6 to 7 years in how we see it, right? It's like more or less like maybe 2 or 3 years. Like 6 to 7 years is the new 2 to 3 years, maybe even less. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, look how fast the vaccines came out, right? You know,
yeah,
normally a vaccine would take years, and here was the process was sped up. So, part of it is still kind of a trial thing, which is
yeah,
that's kind of the scary part. But there's the unknown. Like if you don't get the vaccine, what's going to happen, and all this other stuff. I don't want to dive into all of that. Okay,
yeah.
let's
There's
just
a lot on it.
a lot. So the counterparts, the counter argument part of that question, um, these are essentially throughout the essay. You'll see the counter arguments. You'll see Carr bringing in the counter arguments and kind of um, the counter arguments to what he's thinking. So in other words, individuals who are pro the internet and pro the technology, he's kind of a skeptic. So the people who are skeptical, that's kind of who he's leaning with. But he's kind of weighing both at the same time. But what are both sides? The counter arguments are basically the both sides. So that first part I just showed you, which was um, which is that gentleman from the '60s, and then the gentleman Clive Thompson from the Wired. Clive Thompson is also a very popular science fiction novelist. So, yeah, so that would be, Clive Thompson's response would be the counter argument to that the gentleman from the '60s. I forget his name at the moment. And then finally, the last two, your emotional appeals. These are your ethos, pathos, and logos. Does the writer use any of these? So he brings in sources, right? So he quotes sources. That pretty much gives you an answer to at least 2 to 3, right? How does the writer establish authority and credibility to address this topic? In other words, how does he use those authority figures to prove his point of view, to prove his argument? So generally speaking, if you can answer these questions, you can do the essay. Because that's essentially what the essay is going to be on. The only difference is that everything I'm asking for in your essay is broken up into bullet points here. So this could work as a free write, as a outline. So I have a feeling that many of you are going to return to this assignment here and use that for your essay, and I have no problem with that. So, and then we have this part, ignore. So do not answer the question for for that journal that we're just talking about right now. But these questions, do not get credit for it. But do so for the analyzing a written text. Okay, so yeah, I think I pretty much covered everything I wanted to cover. Do you have any questions, Alan?
I was curious about the 205 assignment.
Oh, yeah. Okay, we can certainly close up with that, with the 205. Okay, analyzing something personal. Okay, so this is the discussion activity where you use the visual text questions, which are from the same page.
Yeah.
But they are using these questions here. So let's come back.
Visual analyzing for.
Yeah. Visual analyzing, a lot of the same type of style of questions from analyzing a written text. The only difference is that the focus is on a visual image. So for this assignment here, though, you will analyze yourself as a text. In other words, I know it sounds kind of odd, but when you analyze yourself as a text, well, you can consider yourself, what is it that you wear that makes you unique, that says something about you. Myself, I don't wear hats on Google. On Zoom. I've been talking about that essay for too long, but I wear hats quite a bit outside of class. So this is one of my favorite hats right here. Got this on the at the coast a few weeks ago. But I like it because it was made in Italy.
That's cool.
Yeah. So this is about this. It was really cool. And so a lot of people are used to seeing me with hats. This is, so when I'm at home, I don't wear a hat, but I'll wear a hat when I'm out and about. I like to wear golf caps like that or fedora hats, So that says something about me. Um, and what do people say about me when I wear when I wear a hat like that? So I actually did this assignment with my students at City College. I asked them to analyze me. So I wore that hat with, I wore that hat with a shirt, with a dress shirt that was kind of baggy. I normally don't wear baggy shirts like that, but it was a dress shirt, but it was a little baggy. So my students said, well, that hat kind of reminds me of 1920s era. I remember you said, Mr. Medrano, that you like to listen to music. I could see you listening to jazz. And I was like, yeah, well, I actually do like jazz. So, but that shirt's not working for you. You should wear much more tailored clothing. So I was like, yeah, I can see that. This shirt's kind of not a great shirt. Yeah. The end of my laundry cycle, so I tend to wear the not so great shirts towards the end of my laundry cycle. Um, so that's an example of my students analyzing me. Okay, and you could do that through the clothes you wear, the type of food you eat, the music you listen to, or whatever. If you're a person that's on the go, for example, you're probably used to eating real quick meals. Maybe during the week you're always on the go, and so maybe you just bring a piece of fruit with you. Maybe you just drink coffee, have large lunches or whatever, and then on the weekends that's when you like to really eat well and whatnot. That says something about you as a person. You value your time, but you also know when to let it all hang out, right? How does ethos, logos, pathos influence your choices? So, I would say go back to the hat real quick. If I take the hat right here, so there is a ethos, pathos, logos. For one thing, in regards to the, with ethos, we'll talk about the ethos, which are your experts, right? So this hat was made by St. Martin Quality Headwear. I have no idea, never heard of the company, but what got me was it's pure wool. It's pure wool. And it's made in Italy. Made in Italy and pure wool, and which tells me that, and it's a little pricey, which tells me that it's that there was a craftsmanship towards it. There was a craftsmanship towards it. There's a long history of craftsmanship, and that could also tie in with the logos. Wool is supposed to be meant as quality. 100%. There's a measurable quality to that. There's no other synthetic fibers that are in the hat. That influences my choice. The pathos. I love a good hat. It fits my style. That's part of the pathos right there. And yeah. And I actually, I bought it, but I kind of didn't buy it. But my wife and I went to the coast right before my birthday, and then she just said, "Pick out a hat. It's your birthday." So there's that pathos element to it too. So in regard to my wife saying, "Just pick out a hat," it's 2 days before your birthday. Pick out a hat, And I was like, "Oh, that was very sweet of her," and and I did. I was like, "This one right." So, yeah. So I mean, I don't know if that answers any of your questions, Ellen. Or if you have any other additional questions for this.
Pick something about myself and analyze why I chose that, is
Yeah.
what I'm gathering from this assignment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Does it have to be films or anything?
Uh,
For me, I like to play a lot of video games.
okay.
And so I was thinking maybe, doing it on, why I choose the particular type of game I play.
Absolutely. You can, yeah, you can certainly bring in the video games. Yeah, that'll
Cool.
work. Yeah, yeah. And for everybody else, that'll work, So you can certainly bring in the video games or maybe it's what were the choices here? Music. Yeah, it doesn't have to be music or food. It could be places you visited, places that you like to travel to. Could be anything really, any type of activity that describes you. Yeah, yeah. And so the other questions are pretty self.
Uh, Not that I can think of concerning the assignment or anything.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Cool, cool. Good to hear. Let's see.
So I read chapter 9. I didn't read the analyzation of her thing at the end of chapter 9 where she goes through and analyzes her article or whatever that she wrote at the end of chapter 9.
Wait, I'm sorry. What was that?
Well, at the end of chapter 9,
Uh-huh.
of all to where it gets to the activity,
Okay.
there's a spot where she talks about, or it goes through an article. I think that this lady wrote, a student's analyzing what happened, what's happening over at Cosmo. I haven't read that part
Oh,
yet.
right, yeah.
So, but I read all the body of chapter 9. So,
Uh-huh. Oh, okay. Oh, you're just pointing that out. Okay. Yeah, I mean, certainly an essay that, yeah, an example that that you can certainly gain a lot from. So, um, and then the your other activity is a letter to Nicholas Carr, a very personal response. If you are imagine you're having coffee with author Nicholas Carr. Doesn't have to be coffee, folks. It could be, it could be anything. Immediately after you read his essay, is Google making us stupid? What questions would you like to ask him? What other ways do you relate to his essay? So a lot of this is repetitious, but maybe there's something new that comes out of your previous responses and whatnot. So here's the thing: when you read an essay, sometimes your thoughts change about the essay. You start to, especially when the essay makes an impact on you, you start to think about, oh wow, it's really interesting. And then you may have like watched something on TV and that maybe got you thinking into another direction. You're like, oh wow, but what if Carr really meant this? So the word essay, by the way, is a French word. And it means to try. So it was coined by I think he's a French philosopher, Francis. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Ponge, Ponge. But it's called. So an essay is to try. That's what the literal French translation means, to try. So you're making an attempt to answer a question, or to form an argument. So it's an attempt. So sometimes there's more than one answer. There's more than one person trying to answer the question. There's always different points of view. Everybody's trying to say something important. So, all righty. So I think I'll pause there, but I don't know if you have any other questions, Alan.
no, as I've been reading the essay, I've been annotating along the margins. So
That's great. Yeah, it's a great way to annotate and look up. Don't be afraid to look up words you don't know, because it just adds more context to consider this. don't feel like, oh man, I can't believe I don't know that. Use it as an opportunity to say, wow, how can I use that? How can that word get me to understand uh, this essay better? Yeah, so,
Yeah. I went through and marked down, I think I've come across like 2 or 3 new words I hadn't seen or heard before. So,
oh, cool. Cool. Right on. Right on. Oh, happy reading and have a great weekend, Alan. And
all right.
if you
You
have
too.
any questions, do not hesitate to email me and I'll answer your questions or any of your questions. All righty. Well, have a good one.
All right. You too.
And I'm going to stop the video.